We'll have to cut that one because I don't know if he's...
No, you can leave it in there, man. I don't cut any of this.
Thank you for joining us again on Gear Nation. Today we'll be continuing our conversation with Blair from RevitAuto.
Like I used to say, like, I'm gonna get paid to live my life to my stepdad. I would tell him that. He'd be like, what are you gonna do when you're older? And he, by the way, my stepdad never talks to me like that. When I talk to my stepdad, Ralph, he'll be like, very calm, collected, smiling at the same time. I don't know how he does this. He must have taken many courses. He'll be like, Blair, what do you plan to do with your future? Let's talk about it. Let's grab a bourbon, let's sit on the back deck. Like, I don't drink, but he's like, if you want a cigar or whatever, or I'll make you meal, like food, and he'll just talk to you, just like the most inviting guy to talk to.
Yeah.
But in my mind, he's like, what do you do with your life? You know what I mean? But, he asked me, he's like, what do you do with your life? And I was like, I'm gonna live my life and get paid to live it.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how I was gonna do that. And now that's what I'm doing. It's like, building cars on a TV show, doing the YouTube channel, just living the life that I want to live and getting paid to do it. Like, I never stopped. And it's been hard, I've missed weddings, I've ruined relationships, I've, so many bad things, missed birthdays, missed text messages from family, just like totally alienated. Like, I'm sure they watch this and they're like, why aren't you down here? Like, my like equivalent of my nephew, who's actually my cousin, he's growing up before my eyes on the phone, and I don't go see him, and it's awful. And they're like my favorite cousins. They hike and everything, but it's like the sacrifices that you make in your life for your future are so important, and we will quit so easily. It's so easy to quit. Mm-hmm. And my uncle Victor, he stopped me one time. I was getting ready to shut Revit down, and every time I feel like, oh man, I'm an imposter, oh man, I'm not doing it right, or this is too crazy or too stressful, I think about, my uncle saying this stuff to me. And I was at my mom's house, and I accepted this job with a government contractor to work for an agency that cannot be named on camera, but they don't exist. This is all a lie. This isn't gonna happen. But I was getting ready to accept this job. And it's a family dinner, and my Uncle Victor comes over to me, and I'm like quiet, and I'm never quiet. Like, I'm always like talking, interacting with people, like making people smile. You need a water, you need this, like whatever. At my parents' house, I'm just like on the couch, just like dead. My Uncle Victor, makes his way over, and that guy is like incredible. You think I can talk, he can talk, and he's just so full of guidance and insightfulness, and he's like the coolest guy ever. He's a FedEx driver, and he has this awesome route on Rockville Pike, and everyone that he delivers package to is like, oh, Mr. O'Callaghan, Mr. Victor, like he's the coolest. He's just so cool. I have so much respect for this guy. So I'm dying on the couch inside. I'm totally ripped apart. And he was like, what's the matter with you? And he's like, what happened? Like, your girlfriend died? Like, your dog died? I didn't have a dog. He's just messing with me. And he didn't say those exact words, but that was the point. He's just like, what's wrong? And I was like, I think I'm going to close Revit. And I'm going to take this job as a government contractor for an agency. And it was a fantastic job. Like, I sometimes get the call, hey, we still need this. And I'm like, ooh, it's tempting. But, I'm so invested in where I am now. So I told him that, and he's like never been aggressive or like never been anything. And he like looked at me, and he was just like, who the F are you, and what did you do with my nephew? and everyone calls me Blairy Berry, or Blairy the Teddy Berry. That's just like the Blair the Bear is like my nickname.
That's gonna stick.
Yeah, it is, man. And I say that out loud, and people are like, why would you admit that? I'm like, it's endearing in my family, okay? It might be embarrassing outside of my house.
You don't know what I've been through.
Yeah, but in my house, they're like, oh, I'm playing with Teddy Bear. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like, who wants a hug, Yeah, so he's like ramping on me. He's like, where's the kid that told me he was going to have Bear Industries, and he was going to have a clothing line, and he was going to have a car manufacturing line, he was going to have all these different businesses and be this super big successful person and help all these people and all this other stuff. And he's like, did he die? And I was like, no. I was like, he did die. And I like stood up and I looked at my mom and was like, I'm not taking that job. And I'm going back to work in the garage, and I'm going to be a grease monkey till I die. And my mom was like, no. And like ever since then, like my Uncle Victor, yeah, dude, he saved my life. He saved my business, because I don't know where I would be, without it. And it's like, we're so quick. we're so quick to quit, and we're so broken as a society, as a people, that like one little act of kindness, so all you a-holes listening to this, one little act of kindness from someone goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this woman who paid for my meal at a freaking movie theater, she has no idea how many people I'm going to help because of that little tiny nudge. And my Uncle Victor, who was like, hey, you know, why are you giving up on your dreams? And like really gave me the pep talk of my life. Like, I think about that. And then when my employees are like, you know, my employee Aaron's like, I don't think I can become a pro drifter because like it's super expensive and it's whatever. And I'm like, dude, help me build my dream of making RevitAuto huge.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will get your ass in a drift car. I was like, if we're making so much money over here, I was like, can you help me get there? I was like, I'm gonna come to your house, swim in your pool, eat your barbecue, look at your drift car, that we're gonna go ride in your truck, and like you're gonna be a pro drifter, and it's gonna be a RevitAuto, maybe Engines.com sponsorship. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see how this podcast does. And like that's, you know, now that's part of who I am. And like, you know, my Uncle Victor, he was just saying that to me because he's just like genuinely like, what's wrong with you, kid?
Yeah.
You know, every action, every little thing that you do for someone makes a huge deal. During COVID, I don't eat out much at all. I cook like all my stuff and go to Trader Joe's. Everything's organic. I try to be as healthy as possible, even though I'm like still a blob underneath here with this dad bod health issues, you know? But I do this thing, if I go somewhere and I've been paid cash, or sold something or made a profit, then I've, you know, got a couple bucks in my pocket. I roll up a $1 bill and a $100 bill together, and then I flip the receipt over, and then I'll write something that'll be like, you know, life isn't always what it seems. And then I'll write something underneath that that's like, it's not about what opportunities you have, it's about what you do with the opportunities that you get. Because, you know, people say, oh, he's super lucky. It's like, yeah, there's luck, but you have to be prepared to fully appreciate and to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You know, like I was offered the opportunity to come here to the Turn and Burn and meet people and have fun. Like I maxed out that opportunity by, you know, talking to everybody and networking and just having a great time. And you know, I could have come here and I could have not gotten along with Dave or Cab or Bogey, and it would have been, you know, a waste of time. Sure, right? But we hit it off, and now it's fantastic. And it just opens up, you know, greener pastures. So it's like, you know, it's just this whole idea of just like be kind and try to just help someone any way you can. And then I just write on there. I'm just like, you know, that's what I do, and I roll it up. And the reason I roll up the $1 bill is because they think I stiffed them with a $1 tip.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man, it's cool. And I had someone, because I pay with a credit card, right? And then I do the $1 thing, so that they're like all sorts of confused. Yeah, it's like
playing with emotions.
And I had this lady, I think her name was Catherine. She was, I went up to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. I bought a trailer, and my buddy got a car, and we have a race car together and stuff like that. And she was like, "Oh, let's go eat here." And I can't remember where we ate, but I did that same thing to her. And she like found me on Facebook, and she was just like, "You have no idea what that meant to me. You have no idea how hard it's been for me. And thank you so much. Like, that was amazing." And what's funny is, like, you know, I've given someone a car, I've given tons of like big fat tips, but I've also just talked to people. Yeah. And for me, it's like the conversations, the genuine conversations, are the ones that mean the most. And I think as Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and WeChat and WhatsApp and all those things kind of divide us apart, and social media kind of, you know, prescribes a barrier between opposing views, and friends from middle school and high school that I have don't talk to each other because who they voted for in the election, like, which is so crazy to me. You know, I think it's really important right now more than ever, when we're so disconnected and physically quarantined, separated from each other, to just do your best to just not be an ass. Like, you know.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Do your best.
Do your
not
best.
Be an ass.
Because you have no idea what someone's going through.
Exactly.
You know, so you just gotta be kind.
And you know, that's a lesson you learn too when you, like, I have kids, and my daughter's 14, my son is 16, and anytime they're like, "Man, this kid's messing with me, and this kid's a jerk," or whatever, and it's it's about relationships in general.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea
what they're going through.
what somebody's going through.
Yeah.
And sure enough, my kids would come back to me like, Dad, you know what? I just found out the other day that, this kid's, dad's in jail.
Yeah.
And they're just, having a hard time. And,
Yeah.
but that's,
Yeah.
we're all big kids.
I
I've
know.
seen,
I'm still a kid.
70-year-old, 80-year-old people that still, we're all big kids.
We're all
Like,
right.
we all are dealing with stuff, and we all have been through stuff, and
Yeah.
that's why you gotta treat everybody with respect. And
Yeah. And it's hard finding that line between being understanding and noticing disrespect. Like I feel like a lot of times I'm like too understanding and not noticing disrespect, but
yeah,
it's challenging. Just, I was bullied a lot as a kid, and yeah, I mean, it's like I'm one of those weird people where actually if I have a bad day, I don't take it out on you. Like I have a 5-star review on the internet. I work super hard to make sure everyone's happy. I get a 1-star crappy review, and like I called my team off camera. I don't know if we were recording, but I called my team and I was like, "Yo," I was like, "Do you guys see this review? Like, is this guy crazy or did we really mess up this bad?"
Yeah.
And at first, I called my tech, my lead tech, who right now, since I'm out of town, is managing everything. And I was like, "Hey, did we do this?" And he was like, "Well, we were late to a couple of appointments, but I didn't have any disgruntled people." And then I found out we damaged a rim on someone's car, but we already said, "Hey, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it." Well, don't worry. You got to worry about it. Your car's messed up, but like we're gonna make the rim perfect.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I just don't really get that upset at that type of stuff because it's like you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the grand scheme of things,
That's small.
yeah, exactly.
So what's really funny is it's my first time ever signing autographs at an event, and I felt like pretty cool because they have this thing behind me, and I've got my dad right here, being moral support. But what's really great is that the other people here are Bogey and Dave Aiken. So as you can see, no one wants an autograph from me, but the real stars are getting it all in. But this has been one of those awesome experiences. Super fun.
Dave Aiken was here with Toymakers, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was chatting with him at the hotel after, and I was like, we're going to do this one YouTube video where we take a couple cars to the Track Days event at VIR, November 5th and 6th. We're going to do brake fade challenges. So like, we're going to take, the silver, gold, platinum pads from Advanced Auto Parts, and we're going to run them on our Mazda Speed 3 that has 06 Subaru STI front brakes on it, so it stops fairly well. But we're gonna actually document the brake fade and be like, hey, your silver pad's gonna fade at minute 9, and then and kind of go for 30-minute sessions, and then get to like a proper Hawk temp rated pad. But what's so fun about that is I was telling Dave that, and it's we're this is 1:30 in the morning. So it's I'm sitting here, it's Dave Aiken, and then it's, Cabot and Corey and Bogey and the guys from Gas Monkey Garage, and Dave's amazing fabricator that has over 2,000 hours of wind tunnel experience, just really. Yeah. So I'm sitting here, and everyone who's around me is way more intelligent and experienced, has so much more knowledge, and I'm just a kid in a candy shop listening to all these stories. It's I talk a lot, but it was the first time that I shut up in a long time. I didn't say anything. I was just yeah, tell me that. Click, click. Yeah. Writing, you know what I mean? My notebook. Yeah. So I was telling him this, and he's like, oh my gosh, I used to work for the DOT, and we used to have all the calipers and sensors and ways to just, figure out what is actually going on with brake fade and testing and all this other stuff. And I was like, how far do you live from VIR? And he's like, 30 minutes. So he's coming up on the 5th and 6th to go take, a chance and see what is the actual legitimate scientific documentation of.
That's awesome.
Is there a difference between the silver, gold, and platinum, or are you guys just spending useless money? I think there's a difference, but we're going to go test that. And all those things, tying this back to engines.com and Monster and all your, Leadfoot Cities, you guys created the space to, allow for this stuff to foster. So we never would have made that connection unless we had come to the Turn and Burn event.
Well, yeah. And, having all those different relationships and, it's all about, and I think the industry should be about, benefiting each other, growing content, and just working together, and too much that people kind of just stay in their realm and get a little protective of it. But we've been fortunate that, you know, the people that we work with are just like so open to either help someone else in the industry or be a part of it, share knowledge, whatever they can do to help. You know, you're still early on compared to like Dave Aiken or some of the others to just partner up and just reach people. It's all about reaching people that you don't normally reach. Yeah. You know, and what you're trying to do with that content, that's stuff that the average person wants to know. Mm-hmm. Is it when I'm on, you know, AutoZone online about to order these brakes, is it really worth me paying the little extra money? Yeah. I know for myself, like you drove my Corolla, right? That when I had to get front pads for that at like 30,000 miles, I told myself, I'm like, I'm gonna buy the best front pads I can buy. You know what? I went to my tire guy and I said, you know, how's my brakes? Like, I got 120,000 miles on this car now. How's it, you know, how's it looking? He's like, honestly, you got to replace the back. The front, you still got about 70% left. I'm like, are you serious? Wow. He's like, yeah. He's like, they're good. Yeah, man. But it does, crazy. You know, but you don't know. And if you compare it to brands and different levels, you know, that's content that saves people in the long run, that just saves headaches. Yeah. And the last thing you want to do is throw brakes on there and then a year or two later, you got to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny, you know, the right application and the right part. It's like, for me, when I work with fleets, it's like, we've got a guy that has a F-250, and then he puts like a 10,000 pound dump trailer behind it, and he's yelling at me because every 6 months he needs front brakes and rotors. And I'm like, you know, you need like a 550 or 450, you run a landscape company, what are you doing, you know? Like I've tested, you know, frontline brakes or the Platinums, and like I actually see a difference. And, you know, on the road course, you know, it's like, it's really about the temperature in which the pad material needs to operate. And then you want to keep your brakes in that temperature. Yeah. So for most street drivers, like the gold or silver might be perfect because, you know, they drive like I do, which is grandpapa style, in the right-hand lane, going so slow. And I drive so slow. I remember to this day, this is hysterical. I've got my good buddy in the car, Ricky Williams. And Ricky's like, you know, gigantic, muscular, buff dude, just like super high energy all the time. Like, you know, looks at protein, gets bigger. And we're driving back towards my college, and he's like, you drive so slow, man. And he's so pissed. And I'm like, dude, I'm doing the speed limit. Like, you know, there's hills, there's blind turns. Like, I just want to get there safely. And we're in my like little Kia Sportage, just like zoom. And I say we're zoom, and we're doing the speed limit. And he's like, just starting to say about how slowly I drive, and we're going up a hill. And as he says that, I look out my left, you know, shoulder, and there's an old man who's like tiny, like the type of tiny that like the steering wheel's here and they're looking through the arch of the steering wheel to see out. And he's got like no hair, and as he looks ancient, man. Like I swear he's like a mummy. He's in this little blue Toyota hybrid, and the guy's pinning it, and he's passing us. And I just like look back over at Ricky, and he's looking at me. He's like, He's like, you see what just happened here? And we just bust out laughing, and it's like, yeah. So it's, you know, it's like the parts that you install in your car need to match your driving style. Yeah. You know, and like that's like kind of the video that we're trying to show and actually back it up with, you know, data points. And that's like the content that I want to create. You know, it's like no shame on the production company I work with for Junkyard Empire, but that same company does Say Yes to the Dress in New York. So it's like when they want to dramatize something on the camera where there's no drama there, I'm just like, just wait. Like, there will be real life drama. Like, we will catch something on fire. Like, this
is automotive, trust me. There's going to be drama.
It's going to happen. You know, we're talking about like what you guys do to help the customer and like no pointing fingers policy and just like doing everything you can to make the customer happy. It's like I do the same thing, and sometimes it's just not enough, and they're just like genuinely sad people. But like, it's super challenging because, you know, bad gas travels fast, and you know, negative reviews and stuff, they hold so much more credibility in our time. You know, bad news travels 6 times faster than good news. So it's like, you know, you might have 100 good, you know, customers, and one of them will write a good review. and then you'll have, one bad customer, and he'll write 5 bad reviews or 6, so it's like
across all platforms.
everything. So it's like, it's super challenging. And then, we have had times in the past where we've had like very angry customers because something's, gone wrong. And if you make a mistake, you got to own it.
Yeah.
Yesterday my tire crew went out there, and a part of the tire debeater and installer was damaged, and my guys didn't catch it, and it left small scratches on the inside face of the rim. Now, if you're like me and you're a car guy, you care about every little detail on your car.
Yeah.
And this is an Alfa Romeo with 20-inch wheels or 19s, and it's a 285, 35/18, like super tight, stiff tire. Got to put in way too much pressure to get it to seat and all that stuff. And my guy scratched his rim, so he, obviously he's upset.
Yeah.
I'm obviously upset, but it's like, I call him up. I'm like, hey, I'm going to get your wheels totally refinished. Do you want it to be a different color? Is there a color that you prefer? Do you want it to be direct stock? And he's like, well, I'm going to town I'm out of the country for 3 weeks, so I can't do anything until I get back. So it's like, boom, November 12th, I have on my first thing to do, call him up, wherever he is, get a rental car, whatever it is. Like,
yeah. And it's really interesting too, because you could, because issues arise, and you can have the same issue happen with one person, and it's not enough, they're upset, they leave a bad review. The same issue happen with another person, and you're their hero.
Yeah.
You've gone above and beyond, and they think that you're the greatest thing in the world. And what we do is not different. It's just, the expectancy or expectation from some people. Some people, like you said, are just not happy people, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you never know what you're dealing with Google reviews too. It could be someone that's never done business with you before. It could be someone who's a competitor. It could be any and everything.
There's no vetting.
There's no way to. The only way that you can 100% verify is to ask them, hey, what's your invoice number? What's your order number? What happened? What can we do different?
Yeah.
And
they never give it to you.
Yeah, that's when just a note when you're doing research on a company and you say, and they respond, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I don't see your order number. Could you please provide that? We'd be happy to help you out. And if they don't respond,
it's probably fake.
It's probably fake. That means you could not find a phone number, an email, or anything regarding that person, because any and every review, we try to vet and do all the research we can, pull calls, do whatever, and do the research to find out what happened so we can improve. And when you have companies like, ours and yours that genuinely want our client to be the client to be happy and we care about our reputation and our name and the growth of not only the company but the people in it, and the hardworking people that you have, like the girl answering the phone, and you know who she is.
Oh yeah.
That's not that person.
And what I was saying earlier is I trust my team. Like, if Kai was rude to someone, she would have been like, "You're right. I was short with them. I couldn't hear them," or my daughter was going ballistic on the other line. And I've had tons of customers actually call me and they've been like, and Kai, sorry if you're finding this out for the first time, but all these customers will call me up after, they'll ring me or text me or email me and be like, I tried booking an appointment, but it was very distracting to have the baby was crying in the background. It was very distracting. And I'm like, we're a family-run business. Kai's not blood to me. She's just a team member and she's part of the Revit family. But I grew up in a lifestyle where I had both parents working full time, and it's super important to have those years as the young development years to have a parent around.
Yeah.
And she's just an amazing, incredible mom. So when someone tells me oh, your daughter's crying in the background, I'm like, that's not my daughter. That's my employee's daughter. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry that was an inconvenience. But it's COVID, so there's no daycares.
Yeah.
And second, even when there wasn't COVID, she didn't have to do daycare because she got to save that money. and she does a fantastic job otherwise. So it's like when someone calls me and they're like, oh, you know, there was a baby crying. You're not calling, you know, a massive company. Like, you're calling someone that like sleeps at night better knowing that your car's safe on the road.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of the atmosphere of my business. So it's like when I meet someone, I'm like, what do you do with a shopping cart when you're done with it? How do you treat the people that treat your food?
Exactly.
You know, like those are the things that I look at. It's like how do you talk to your parents? That's a big one, man. Like if you yell at your parents and
Oh my gosh.
you like, you know, tell them bad things and stuff like that, like I lose a ton of respect for you because like eventually you'll treat me that way.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get close enough where you'll treat me like everyone else.
I think too, you know, in society in general, we get used to, it's a disconnect based on convenience. So like, you know, you have these big websites, e-commerce stores where a lot of them don't have call centers, and you know, we have a call center that has real people in it, real families.
They're nice.
And they're all, you know, working their best to do their best for their own.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a lot of these bigger companies don't have that. You can't find an 800 number to call and talk to somebody.
Yeah, because they're
your
bean
part.
counters.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at all those companies and
Yeah.
and it's just you're a math equation.
exactly.
And I never
You're
want
just
that
another
to be
number,
my company. Or I know that's with you guys too. I mean, you guys have like 60 to 80 employees. I don't know. You have a ton of employees. There's a lot of
Just over
cars.
80 now,
Yeah. You know, today I just like walked through the floor and like everyone's like pretty happy except for Frank. Something about Frank. He's just like, but that might just be, he might just have like resting Frank face. My stepdad has that. We call it metro face. When he's on the metro, he doesn't want to talk to anybody. He's just like, but Frank's not like that. Frank's a really cool dude. But it's funny, man. It's like the attitude is so good in your guys' company. It's awesome.
It's the same thing. It's just you know, it's a family-based company, and it's important to the owners that everybody has quality time with their family. The local involvement with the community, with the property, with local government, with everything, and charities.
Yeah.
And all the events that they put on, you know, of course, not only the employees get for free, but their family members get to come for free.
And the
You know,
community, the sense of community here is huge. When I was here for the car show, I was my dad's header bolts backed out, and you drove my dad to Advance Auto to get stuff. And when I was taking all this stuff apart, you know, a couple of people who didn't work here but were just in the community were like, "Hey man, I live right up the street. If there's a tool you need or something, I'll come back and help you." And it's like, that's the community that you guys are fostering here. And
That wraps it up here at Gear Nation Podcast. Blair, thank you again so much for joining us. If people want to know more about you and what you do, how can they find out?
John, thanks so much for having me on here. You can get me on Instagram, Facebook, and Google. Just RevitAuto. R-E-V as in Victor, I-T Auto.
All right. See you next time on Gear Nation Podcast.